It's 12 o'clock in Frisco, Texas, and it's time for Smoker Broker Radio with Robert Mesh, a.k.a. the Smoker Broker. Robert is the owner of Small World Realty and has employed hundreds of real estate agents in his 17-year career. He has instructed and mentored over 10,000 real estate agents at the highly acclaimed Champions School of Real Estate and is considered an expert in Texas residential realty. Robert is also an advocate of true entrepreneurial spirit and has helped many to transition from corporate America into the world of self-employment. And now live from the studio to your world, the Smoker Broker.
Hey, welcome to Smoker Broker Radio. I'm Robert Mesh, and I am the Smoker Broker. Happy Thursday. Hope everything's going well. Coming off almost winter, not winter, again in Texas. We had more winter last night than we did yesterday morning.
Yeah, my car was covered in ice.
I know. It starts sleeting at 4 o'clock, so
yeah.
Cancel all these plans in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it never really does anything. But then right around 2 or 3 o'clock, it actually starts sleeting. No accumulation, but, you know, it was a weird winter. Those folks out west, they definitely got a little more than we normally get, though.
Oh, yeah.
What sucks, too, because I planned stuff. So I canceled a big meeting that we have, and I'm glad I did because some people would have been hesitant towards it. Everything was fine, but it gets in your way all the time like that. I mean, I'm happy it didn't. I'll tell you, this morning was worse though. This morning was more dangerous. I didn't even think about it, but there were a ton of wet spots out on 35 and stuff. I mean, it was dangerous because it was a hard freeze last night. So we'll probably be at 75 later this week or so.
Oh, I'm sure it will.
But we're getting into. It's getting close to fishing season.
Oh,
in fact,
man.
You're probably already there, right?
Oh, I'm all prepped up. I'm ready to go.
Right.
Lines on.
Well, you know, before I get, I'll talk to Jared like I always do about a lot of his extracurricular stuff. But, you know, got Jared Smith here with us, one of our top agents here at SWR. And just, you don't even have enough time to talk about Jared. You know, Jared's a former Super Bowl champ, professional fisherman, professional a lot of things he does. So we're actually going to talk a little bit about some of that stuff because anytime you have someone cool on the show, you want to talk about their things. But we are going to get into contracts today. Contracts one of the most important things that we deal with from an agent level, from a client level. This show is just as good for clients out there who are watching, or any of your clients, that you should actually send this to them because it's breaking down the things that we're looking at and the reasons we use for why we are going through and drafting something, or why we say you should do this or you shouldn't do it. So should be a good show for everybody. We're going to do the second part of the contract because about 3 months ago we did the first part. So I don't like to repeat things unless it's been 4 or 5 months. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. But I always like to talk to Jared. Jared has such an interesting life beyond just real estate. You know, it's funny. He's such a good real estate agent. He is one of our top agents in such a short time, too. I don't think I did near the volume that you did until like year 6 or 7 probably. But, you know, you have so many other things you do. You know, obviously, the cool thing, you know, no professional football player likes talking about football very often. I think that's the worst thing is when you're out there and you see the guys and, you know, you see someone famous and you go up to him and you're like, hey, do you remember that time? They hate that, you know.
Yep.
They really hate doing that. So anytime I talk with Jared, we're typically talking about just sports in general with him.
We're talking about being at a time we were both at the same Super Bowl.
Yeah, so that's cool too. So Jared's playing in Super Bowl, which is at 46, 47? I can't
48.
remember. 48.
Yeah.
So Jared's at 48. I'm in New York. I'm literally 3 rows back from him. I didn't even realize at the time. We didn't know each other at the time, but we can go back in pictures, and I can almost see him in the pictures that I have. And it's really unfortunate too because, you know, Chris certainly love Jared now. He's a good friend these days, but at that Super Bowl, that was a big one for me and my brother. You know, Peyton Manning was playing in it, and we had a little bit of some attachment with him, and we did not want Jared to win that game, but it ended up working out fine. Peyton got his Super Bowl a couple years later, and now you certainly wouldn't have that ring if it wasn't for that. So,
that's very true.
Yeah, so that's great that happened, and looking back now, I'm glad that happened. But it's true, though. You know, a lot of people I've been fortunate enough to be around a lot of professional athletes and stuff, and it's funny. Sometimes you meet with them, you know, you learn a lot about them, and they're normal people just like anybody else, and they don't necessarily like a lot of the excessive treatment sometimes. So a lot of times when you see them, you know, and you start talking about football or you talk about baseball or basketball, everything they're doing, they'll do it, but it's not something they're really thrilled about. So you know, I love it when he's on because we usually talk about stuff in general because you do want their expertise. But if you ever meet those people out in public, don't just run over and gather or, you know, say hello to them or something. They're cool with that, but a lot of times if you go too much further, it can be rough. But with him here, I am definitely going to talk about, you know, we just got off the Super Bowl, and it was a great NFL season. It was a great I think a great championship. I think the two best teams. I still think New Orleans should have been there, but that's bias. But I think the two best teams were there, and I think they played the game that was expected by most people. What did you think? That's a pretty good game, right?
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, it was kind of had a pretty good solid offense and defense.
Yeah.
But I was kind of hoping the Chiefs would win, but I thought that I was kind of surprised that both quarterbacks were kind of struggling the way they were for a little while.
Yeah, I think Patrick looked like he was nervous. And Garoppolo, I still don't know. I don't know. I don't have the. I don't know the.
I mean, they're both the defenses on the both sides of the team were just
Kansas City.
amazing.
I know doesn't get enough credit for their defense. Their defense is good, and I think in the end they held them off just enough to do well with it. So for those of you who don't know that have never been on the show before, Jared is a big-time real estate agent, but he also is a former Super Bowl champion with the Seattle Seahawks and Super Bowl winner there in Super Bowl 48. He has played with the Atlanta Falcons, and he has actually played with our home Dallas Cowboys. That was his last day, and it's how he got to Dallas-Fort Worth. He actually likes being in Dallas-Fort Worth. And
I love it.
He's been in some really cool places, too, and he's really built a lot of relationships down here in Dallas-Fort Worth. You know, he has a huge fishing business. He has a huge hunting business. He does a lot of things. He is not like the typical professional athlete that they just take all their money and waste it, or they don't plan for it. He's young. He's very young, and he has things in place that really take care of him, for him and his family the rest of his life, which is why I've always, enjoyed being a friend of his like that, because I have a lot of respect for someone who actually takes their gifted talent, they do great with it, but then they go on and they live their life and they build on it. And he has so many multiple facets that he goes through, and they're fascinating. So like the football one's an easy one, and the only reason I'm probably even asking about the Super Bowl is because it's just recent, and a lot of people like to talk about that before we get into the contract stuff. But it was a good Super Bowl. I did think the two teams best. I think you might see a repeat possibly, although the NFC is going to be tough. I really think that no bias. I really do think New Orleans was one of the better teams, and I'm still shocked they lost that. So I think that'll end up getting better in there. But AFC, I mean, between the Ravens and the Chiefs, I don't see anybody.
The real big thing is now the Super Bowl. What happens about the Super Bowl teams is that, when you win, a lot of the veterans' contracts are normally up.
Right.
And they're seeking money now.
Yeah, and they're at the highest level they can be, and they expect to be paid.
That's how teams fall apart, because
Mahomes, they're going to be probably raiding everything to keep him, because they will keep him, but
they will keep him. But the goal is to keep as many of the guys you can.
Yeah, they're going to lose some because of that.
Oh yeah, they're going to lose some because teams are going to pay.
They're talking about Pat being paid a ridiculous amount of money. I mean, I heard the initial amounts, and I was just like, and
And I'm really going to be sitting there talking about in 25 years, down the road, sitting there back. I was like, I made this much, which is nothing compared with these guys are making.
That's funny. Which is ridiculous, because it's still a lot of money.
For sure.
Some of those guys, they just get so astronomical. And Pat does have a gifted talent. That's great for him. I'm happy for him. I'm happy for the Chiefs, too. We do a lot of my brother does a lot of business in Kansas City, so there's a lot of good people there. We have a lot of good friends out that way. So we were very happy to see them do well. Be interesting the season coming through, how the teams fare out. I think Baltimore will have it on their back end that they should have been there, and maybe they will be in another 2 or 3 years. They got a good build there too. They got a good youth group in there, so I think they're going to do well. So before we still get the contracts again, fishing's coming up.
Yes,
we're in spawn season close now, or are we like in the middle for bass?
It's getting close. Yeah. It's pre-spawn right now.
Pre-spawn right now. And those of you not in the fishing world, the spawning season is that's usually when you get your biggest, especially largemouth bass, or they're typically closer to the shore. When it warms up, they come out from the deeps and they get closer into the shore level there, and
that's where they breed, and that's where they lay their eggs.
They're aggressive when they see something
they
hit
have
that
beds.
pad. Yeah, it's fun.
So basically, in the spawn, you catch a lot of bass off their beds where they're laying their eggs.
Yeah.
But you do catch a lot of pretty big bass, though.
Yeah, Jared is a professional bass fisherman. He does compete in a lot of the contests out there. He's he has his own tour guide business with that, Stu. You do tour guide business, hunting as well. So always good. Actually, you want to give people your do you like that to go off anything? Or do you keep that private on your?
No, I mean it's more than welcome. I mean, if everyone wants to go on a guided fishing trip, I'm more than happy to.
If you want to give them your stuff, you tell them. That's up to you. But Gary,
It's the website and stuff is not up yet,
okay.
so I don't have one for you.
Check in with us.
But you can call me.
If you want to, you can give me your number if you want to. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's good. I've been out with him before, and I'm telling you, he can put you on some fish. Even when the fishing's slow, he can put you on some fish.
That is very true.
Well, and that's what's important, because I think a lot of times on those guided trips, you don't really get in. You don't get into fishing, and it's kind of a bust. But if you know where the fish are, which most professionals do know where the fish are, then
we
it
have a
makes
good
it
idea.
worthwhile.
We
Yeah.
do still strike out every now and then.
Well, hell, even on we went a few months back, and it was slow, and
Yeah.
we got onto a spot where they were there. There were some big ones.
You
too.
had some really big ones on there you lost.
Yeah, man, that was crazy. That was crazy. That was a fun day. I had a good time that
Yeah,
day.
it
I
was a
still
good
have a
day.
cool. I need to post that picture that we did one where it does the weird design stuff where it kind of just does the outlines of you. I got a really cool one of that fish we had. I got to put that one out there. That was really fun.
Okay.
But anyways, you got to catch up with him on that because again,
Yeah.
bigger life. He has so many other things too. We can't even get into it on the show. But those two are big because they're all right in there. He's coming off duck season, going into into the fishing season here, and just a lot of stuff going on for him. And he's going into the housing season, which is the most important reason. Why a lot of times we bring him on here because he is very knowledgeable of the things we discuss. And I like to have the guys on the team here because the show is not scripted. And a lot of times I forget certain things that I probably wanted to display. And to have someone like Jared with his knowledge and the deals that he goes through, he's able to chime in. So we are going to talk about that stuff today. We're going to start, like I said, in the mid part of the contract. And we're going to start going over probably a simplistic section of it with the prorations. It's not a massively confusing piece to the contract, but a lot of people don't realize what happens when you close on a property. So when you close on a property, and we're talking about property taxes, if you close at any time during the year, let's say it's even in, July. Let's say that seller is moving out of state. Let's say they're moving to Michigan or something, or Minnesota or whatever. They're gone. When the title company goes in, they're going to close on whatever day. We'll say July 16th or whatever. They close. They're going to take the taxes that the seller owes up to that date and including that date.
Yeah.
Any of the new agents on here, that's a good test question. You include the close date as part of the taxes that are going to be taken.
That's right.
And they're going to take that in, and they're going to basically say they're going to take it away from the seller, and they're going to give it to the buyer, and they're going to tell the buyer at the end of the year, now you're responsible for the whole thing because you've already been given credit for it,
Yeah.
and now we don't need to go looking for someone who's in Michigan or Idaho or whatever. So
Right.
it's a simplistic thing. There's one
I think
problem.
the big thing is to help kind of a seller hears that that number can be a very big number.
Especially
Depending
in
on
Texas.
places where you live, absolutely.
Yeah, high property tax state.
And I think the best thing to do is when you tell your sellers, just tell them, ask them if they do escrow. And then when they do escrow, they should get that money back that they pay at the time of closing
Right.
within